Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So, welcome to another self-hosted transhumanism podcast. Today's topic is very interesting. I'll be talking about a trust. Now, you must be wondering why I'm talking about trust when I talk about transhumanism, right? So, if you're a transhumanist like me, you may agree as we are heading towards fifth industrial revolution, it's very important for us to have a framework in place where a transhumans and humans can trust each other, right? Now, unfortunately, that's not the case. And it may not be the case if we not going to talk about it, right? Think about this. Humans do not trust humans, so why would a transhumans gonna trust humans, right? Um, I understand this is a very uncomfortable topic, but this topic is going to decide the future of humanity. And it's very important topic, right? The concept of trust. Because in a transhuman future, the most important question is not about artificial intelligence. The most important question we all should be asking, can a transhuman trust a human? So let's go deep into it, right? So now, if you look at human history for over roughly 3 to 5,000 years, you would kind of observe a pattern, right? That humans don't even trust the fellow humans, right? I mean, let's just be honest, right? We don't trust each other, no matter how much we try to sugarcoat it. If we have trusted humans, we would not need laws, we would not need codes, police, prisons, surveillance, borders, intelligence agency, military. All the systems exist because humans understand one truth about themselves. That is, we as a civilization are unpredictable. You might have a peaceful neighbor for 10 years and one day he or she snaps. You might have a good government today and tomorrow you might have a dictatorship. You might have a good economy this decade and the war is the next decade. As you can see what's happening in the world, right? We have introduced the concept of good and evil, right? If we're going to align with that terminology, then you could also agree humans are not evil all the time. But humans are unpredictable enough that trust can never be absolute. And when trust is not absolute, civilization create control systems, right? And this is literally the story of human history. Now, you might ask this question, right? If humans can't trust their fellow humans, right, why do we assume a transhumans will? Now, here is where it gets interesting, right? People usually think the future will be like transhumans will be smarter, more advanced, more ethical, and somehow they will automatically trust humans. But why? Let me ask you directly, right? If humans cannot trust transhumans, why do we assume transhumans will trust humans? That is a pretty childish assumption. Because what you're basically saying is a superior race will look at inferior species and think, oh, yes, I trust you. This is not how evolution works. This is not how power works. This is not how reality works. And you and I, as a human race, will know that very well. Now, you could also agree trust is not a moral concept. Or you could disagree. It is a security concept. Most people confuse trust with kindness. Trust is not kindness. Trust is a security decision. It is a calculation. It's basically your brain asking, is this being a risk to me? That's pretty much it. And humans have proven for thousands of years that they can become a risk very quickly, right? So now imagine a transhuman civilization, who is genetically enhanced, superior consciousness, better memory, higher intelligence, higher resilience, higher control over biology. Now, Such a civilization will look at humans and realize something. Humans are chaotic. Humans are emotional. Humans are tribal. We are driven by ego. We are driven by greed. We fight over identity. We fight over religion. We fight over borders. We even fight over skin color, which is one of the most primitive form of stupidity. So why would a transhuman civilization trust such a species? Now, one thing to consider, right? And you may agree, coexistence requires trust. Now, let us take the argument further. The biggest requirement for coexistence is not equality. The biggest requirement is trust. You will hear people talking about gender equality, you talk about all sort of equality, right? The biggest requirement of coexistence is trust. I repeat that again. You can coexist even with beings who are not equal to you. Human coexist with animals. Human coexist with pets. Human coexist with wildlife. But you only coexist when you have certain level of trust and predictability. If a transhuman civilization concludes that human cannot be trusted, then what happens? Then coexistence becomes impossible. You can sugarcoat as much as you want. Transhumans with higher intelligence, higher superior consciousness, maybe better genetics, um, may treat us as a wild predator. And what we do to wild predator, if I may ask, we cage them, right? We don't trust them to be hanging them with us, right? You don't trust a wild predator to be hanging out with your kids, do you? Now, humans are a kind of a wild predator. We are unstable just because we wear suit and tie and we wear fancy gadgets. We use iPhone, we use Samsung phones. Does not make us any less risky, right? Now, think about this, right? Even if humans are not a threat in power, they can still be threat through chaos. A weaker species can still be dangerous when it's unpredictable. And that is one of the biggest nightmare a transhumans will have when it comes to coexistence with humans. It's our unpredictable behavior. And humans have proven over and over and over for centuries that we are unpredictable. So from a excuse me, from a transhuman perspective, humans might become a liability. I'm afraid that I can't sugarcoat it. But you also know, as a human being, when an animal becomes a liability, you know what we do to them, right? So do you want the same outcome to our human civilization? And I'm pretty sure most of us will say no. Now, now that comes to my second, to my another argument. If you assume that if a transhuman assumes that human will not be trusted by default, um, then perhaps we have to earn it. And this is a part most of the people don't want to hear it. In a transhuman future, humans will not be trusted by default. They will have to earn the trust. I mean, must be wondering how. By proving that we can evolve ethically, by proving that we can stop behaving like tribal animals, by proving that we can stop being obsessed with primitive identity, by proving that we can stop destroying this planet. Because let us be honest, humans are literally destroying their own habitat. If you cannot take care of your own planet, why would anyone trust you? It's that simple, right? Get your house in order, and our house is our planet. So, what if I may say, or if I, if I mention to you, what if a transhuman sees humans the way we see monkeys? I apologize if this is a brutal analogy, but I do need to present it. Humans look at chimpanzees, right, and think they are smart. Yes, they can communicate. Yes, they have emotions. Yes, but they are lab rats. Think about it, right? And let's be honest. Do you trust a chimpanzee? And most of us is like, well, maybe, maybe not. They look good in, you go to zoo, right? You take your family to see a chimpanzee. But do you like chimpanzee hanging around in your street, playing near children? Most 90 to 98% of the population might say no. We don't trust a chimpanzee with the power, right? Have you seen the movie Planet of Apes? Obviously, most of the human beings will not like that to happen in a real life. We don't trust a chimpanzee with the decision making. We don't teach a chimpanzee quantum physics. We don't trust them with society. We don't let them run for anything because run for a governance because we assume they are not intelligent enough to live among humans. They are not capable to make a well-informed decisions. Um, it's not that because we hate them, because they are not evolved enough to do these kind of activities. Now apply the same logic in reverse in a transhuman society. What if a transhuman consider human being exactly like a monkey in terms of consciousness? And they would say, look, we don't hate you. We don't consider you bad. We do think you have emotions. We do think you can communicate because you have invented language, and we do assume you have emotions. But you're an inferior species. This is just an evolution, right? There's no so that's one of the reasons why I think this topic is very important. The trust is the biggest transhumanist topic. People think transhumanism is all about gene editing, AI, robotics, nanotechnology, implants, longevity, anti-aging. I do acknowledge that transhumanism comprises of all these things, but in reality, the biggest transhumanist topic is governance and coexistence. How the two species coexist when one becomes exponentially superior. This is not a science problem, right? This is a civilization problem. And civilization is built on trust. Without trust, you don't get coexistence. You get segregation, you get conflict, you get control, you get containment. So, all I have to say, and I will end this podcast with a message: humans do not trust their fellow humans. So, it's delusional to assume transhumans will trust humans. If we want humans to survive and thrive in transhuman future, then humanity must evolve ethically, not emotionally, not politically, not through any ideology. I would use the term ethics and emphasize on it because trust is not a feeling, trust is a survival. And in the fifth industrial revolution, trust is going to become the currency of coexistence. If you enjoyed this episode, then I would highly encourage you to share with someone who is thinking about the future. This is self-hosted transhumanism podcast, and I will see you in the next episode with more interesting topic. Or if you like to me to talk about something unique, which you like to hear my perspective on transhumanism, please do let me know. Obviously, I host it through World Transhumanism Forum. That's the forum I founded, so we can drive the transhumanism forward to ensure humans and transhumans can coexist peacefully in fifth industrial revolution. That being said, hope you guys have an amazing day. Adios.